Yes, hello and welcome to this Asia Pacific session today. My name is Rachel Reed, as Aaron said. I am Director of Insight here at ETOA. I'm delighted to be joined today by three Asia market specialists. We've got Marco De Rivo of Mickey Travel joining us from London. We've got Hannah Pearson of Per Anderson joining us from Kuala Lumpur. And in Brisbane, we have got Andrew Cavallaro of Helm. So a very warm welcome to all of you. Really looking forward to hearing what you have to tell us about your various markets. We're going to have a market overview. We're going to have a look at some of the trends and characteristics of the markets and a few tips on doing business. And as Aaron said, do please feel free to ask questions via the Q&A, and we should have time for those after we've heard from all of our speakers. So I will pass over to Marco of Mickey to give us an update for his markets. Over to you, Marco.
Yes, good morning, Rachel. Good morning, everyone else. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're connecting from. My name is Marco and I work for Mickey Travel. Who are we? We are a wholesaler based in across Asia and London, and we cover most of Asian market for the group segment. We go from India to Japan and from China down to Indonesia. As I said, our core from this market is, or good part of it is group, is what I'm going to focus on today mostly. For this panel, I've been asked to cover, if I can, the Japanese, the Chinese, and the South Korean market, where we have all established offices. As a company, originally we are Japanese, so this is a very, very important market for us. But we've been in the other two markets, in the all Asian market, for many, many years. So this is an exciting time for Asia. There is a strong rebound, or as they call it, the revenge travel. The numbers are going skyrocket on a daily basis. We have seen all of them reopening. The last one to reopen, as we know, was China. And they have reopened with a bang, I can say, because we can see a high demand of returning to Europe on both groups and individual travelers. So obviously, we're not talking about 2019 numbers like for everyone. The return is going to be gradual. But we're very optimistic that we're going to see a very good number of Chinese coming back to Europe very soon. The South Korean market has been now active for over 2 years. In the last year, there been a spike in demand. So we can say that if they're not back to normal, they're almost there. The Japanese are taking a little bit longer. But it doesn't mean that there is no demand for Europe. The demand is coming. We are very optimistic. As always, the Japanese are a slightly bit more conservative than everyone else, so it's going to take them a little while to go back to the numbers we've seen in 2018, 2019, but they're definitely on the right projection. Just one thing, Rachel, if my video suddenly disappear, please let me know. My camera has been very temperamental lately, yeah? So my apologies if there is any technical issue. So you're asking what are the booking pattern and where are the top destination. Right now, as a company, I have to generalize here a little bit. It's difficult to go by each one of these markets, but we've seen that there is, of course, a high demand for some of the original area that were even before. So Italy, France, Swiss, UK, and Ireland probably are the top one at the moment. As a company, we are promoting a lot places like Scandi as well, Central Europe, of course. We want to see more customer going to the Iberia regions and promoting some new area for this market like the Balkans. But I have to say, Switzerland has been probably one of the strongest because of the strong effort from the local tourist board on promoting their country across Asia, in collaboration as well with Mickey, promoting Switzerland as a safe destination to go. and pushing a lot on the factor of the natural beauties and the safety of the country in itself. The economic situation, it's very difficult for me to give you a full picture of that. There are very different countries we are talking about, but if we want to focus more on barriers, for example, of course, from Japan, one of the key barriers, of course, is the flights. Flights takes longer from Japan to Europe because they cannot of the embargo of flying over Russia. So they have to either go north or south. So it takes on an average 2 to 3 hours longer. So costs, of course, have increased, and generally all costs have increased because of the weaker yen. So the situation in Japan is quite stagnating at the moment. The yen is quite weak. So a cost of a package now is much higher than it ever been before. For China, again, same situation, flight, not because of the time, but because of the lack of seats. Airline has only restarted lately to have direct flight from Europe. So it takes time to build back to the inventory that we had in the good old days. So it's very difficult for agents to secure those. And of course, the usual visa problems. Embassies are quite slow on catching up, and for the Chinese, the visa has always been a bit of a barrier, but it's particularly felt these days. So we have to work very closely with all our suppliers to make sure that we give the right condition to be able to work on a visa market like China. South Korea, as I said, the recovery has been more speedy. It's been like the Taiwanese market. I have to say that they've been very, very strong. The rebound was very positive, and there is a lot of optimism that they are gonna really come back in good numbers. Trends, as I said, Switzerland was very trendy during this year, but we expect that there is going to be quite a lot of more mono destination rather than multiple country. So for example, you going to have a lot of mono Italy, mono UK, even from areas like China, which traditionally they used to do a lot of cross country. I think there is more favor towards mono destination and spend more time in a region and visit new area, and that has not been visited before. You're asking what is the balance between groups and FIT. During the COVID period, everybody was talking about the fact that group are going to have a massive impact. People will be a bit afraid to travel in group. We haven't seen anything like that. People still travel in groups. Obviously, there is a trend that there is more shifting towards the FIT, but I think it's a natural trend, it's an evolution of the market. It's nothing to do with fears of traveling in groups. It's linked to new technologies. It's linked to the fact that the younger generation it's more comfortable and confident to travel as individual. So the shift is going to be natural, but there is still a high demand for groups. There are problems with that that we didn't have before. Some of the major challenges we are facing are human resources. There is, everybody knows, there is a lack of human resources across the whole industry. Everybody's desperately looking for drivers for coaches, for example, or as well, a lot of hotels are really struggling with recruitment and filling the key position. But we, as well as operator, it's not an easy market. A lot of people have moved out of the industry, so we need to be able to reattract them and show them the beauty of working for the travel again. Local policies as well are a big barrier. A lot of regions are coming up with restriction. A lot of them addressed to group. there is a lot of fears about the big coach coming into town. There is a lot of misunderstanding about the advantage that that takes. Everybody only see a lot of people disembarking and mass traveling, but limiting the access to the town for the coach, we know, is not the solution, but it does create logistic issues. So it's something that we all need to be aware of. And as I said earlier, modernization of our industry, for example, the ticketing system to go to the main attraction is becoming far harder for a groups operator like us to get holds of ticket. So we need to have a constant conversation, and we're always very thankful for ETOA for giving us a platform where we can discuss this policy together with our colleagues, and have a voice towards the local authority to try and find solution to make sure that tourism is not impacted negatively, especially from faraway countries like the one that we are covering today. So you ask as well about safety to come to Europe. I don't think there is an issue on that. Everybody knows Europe is a safe destination, but of course we're all very aware of what's going on outside Europe. There is still a conflict in Ukraine, and that creates its own challenges. And lately, the problems we are facing, we are witnessing in Israel, of course, will have an impact. But these will always be there. As an industry, we know it's cyclical. Every 3, 4, 5 years, there are conflicts or acts of God, like, for example, the Icelandic volcano. Everybody is on their seats waiting to see and hoping that nothing is going to happen. But we all know that these things happen, and we have to be able to be ready to face them. But we are a resilient industry. I think we have demonstrated that over the last 3 years, and we know that we can face those situations and come back as strong as ever. So I hope I covered most of it. If there's any question or anything I haven't covered, or any curiosity or anything anecdote you want to know about the market I've just covered, please do drop me a question, or you can contact me anywhere on LinkedIn or through the ETOA platform, and I'm happy to answer them today or later on if you want to do it separately from the webinar. Thank you, Rachel.
And we're going to now move over to Southeast Asia and come to Hannah Pearson of Per Anderson. So Hannah, I know you've got some slides to share with us. So if you want to do that, we would love to hear from you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Hannah. I'm the director of Per Anderson. So I'm based in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and Per Anderson focus on sales repping and market intelligence. First of all, I think it's always good to just define what do we mean by Southeast Asia. Roughly the 6 major countries for at least outbound would be Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And so with that, I've just tried to put together a couple of a few slides giving some indications of where we are at with Southeast Asian travel. And to kind of chime with what Marco was saying about air capacity being one of these, barriers. It's definitely a barrier for Southeast Asia still. These are some OAG stats tracking the seat capacity. And you can see for Southeast Asia, we're still internationally down about 21%. When you look at how that figures in terms of the total, minus 22%, that's actually one of the lowest performing in the world in terms of regions. There's obviously bright spots and everything else. So the connectivity, that air capacity, is the one thing that travel agents are really struggling for when they're going outbound, is trying to get the seats, particularly if they're looking for groups, trying to get the group seats. And also playing into that, of course, is the airfares themselves, which are still really at a high, and they're not seeing them come back down at all to those 2019 levels, particularly for groups, which again makes things quite tricky for agents to plan for and to manage those customers' expectations. Again, Marco was talking about the yen really depreciating. Some currencies in Southeast Asia are seeing that. Not all. And again, we're talking about 6 different countries, but Thailand, the Thai baht is definitely struggling right now against the USD, the Malaysian ringgit. I can see it's at a 25-year low. That was just a few weeks ago. Indonesian rupiah dropped down, is now a little bit back up. So again, it falls into that's making outbound tour packages a little bit more expensive. At the same time, the airlines costs here are normally in USD. So then when that goes the other way versus their local currency, that doesn't help to keep fares low regionally. But all of this to say, Southeast Asians are still traveling. So I just took an example of Japan. And so Japan has always been a really popular destination for Southeast Asians. And as soon as it reopened last year, they're going mad for it. So you can see this is January to September 2023 year to date, and the percentage is how much are they in 2023 versus that same period in 2019. So Vietnam is plus 17%, Singapore plus 18%, Philippines is above 2019 levels, Indonesia just a little bit above 2019 levels, and Japan, yes, it has depreciated against the yen. It has not necessarily depreciated against some of our local currencies here in Southeast Asia, so it is still a relatively expensive destination, you can say. And so it is quite heartening, the fact that despite the fact Japan is a more luxury destination for the region, people are still traveling there. And you look, this is the overall rankings of Southeast Asia. So Thailand's number 6 to Japan, Vietnam number 7, Philippines number 8, number 10, number 12, number 13. These are all big, big markets, and they're moving. So it's not that Southeast Asians aren't traveling. They are, which is good. And to just pick up on a few different themes, and we've seen over the last few weeks, people like Booking.com coming out with forecasts and surveys, and SiteMinder, Visa. And there are some kind of common themes within these. So I drew together some kind of themes around Singapore travelers are really foodies. I think particularly coming out of the pandemic, it's about local, it's about authentic. They really want to try that. I thought a really interesting stat was that 30% of people had said they had booked a destination to visit a specific restaurant, which is kind of mind-blowing, right, that they're going to that detail. With sustainability, I would caution in Southeast Asia, it is, in terms of the travel consumer, still very much in its infancy here. I think that there is growing awareness of it. Is it a driving factor to book travel? No. But in Singapore, you can see that the surveys are at least starting to show that people are more interested in that. It's more within their awareness. Whether it's getting all the way to purchase is a different matter, but at least it's kind of going there. Being influenced by TV shows and movies for travel destinations is Singapore, yes, because of this survey, but across the region is universally so. And that's one of the reasons why countries like Korea see so much interest from Southeast Asia to travel there, because of the movies, because there's K-dramas that are filmed there. The same even Switzerland, had Crash Landing on You, and Filipinos are still traveling to Switzerland because of this K-drama, because they want to go and go to the same lakes, and I had a chat with Switzerland Tours, and they said, well, that lake actually isn't even anything special. You could just go to a different lake. They don't care. They want to go to that one because it was in the movies. Something really interesting happening in the region is a lot around music tourism. We're seeing lots of concerts coming to the region, and I think that that's also waking up people in the region to think, oh, actually, I could go traveling overseas for that too. So, for example, Taylor Swift, Coldplay are coming to Singapore next year. They're doing 6 shows each. There's been a massive deal in the press, and I think somehow that's kind of awakened people to the thought, oh, maybe I can travel to abroad, which is kind of interesting. When it comes to cost of living crisis, Singapore's economy is doing really one of the worst, I'd say, in Southeast Asia. This year, I think their GDP is just barely expected to be positive. But yet they are still planning to travel. You can see in one of the surveys, they're talking about 60% plan to pick destinations where cost of living is less expensive. But at the same time, 25% are planning to upgrade their flights to business or first class. So it's a bit of this mixed bag. Overall, I'd say Singaporeans are still pretty affluent. They're still willing to spend and willing to go long haul as well. Thai travelers, I'm not going to go through all of these lines, but yes, they are concerned about the cost of living crisis. And again, we've had inflation in the region that has been bad, that's been impacting consumer confidence has fallen a little bit because of that. But again, they're still planning to travel. They might just be downgrading some of their plans. So you can see maybe 33% prefer less expensive destinations. 45% are staying at budget-friendly accommodation. But still 71% intend to travel in the next 12 months. So it's quite interesting that even though they're seeing that, they're still going. And a last kind of update about Indonesian travelers. And the economy is doing fairly well there. It is not near recession or anything. Again, there has been inflation in Indonesia, but they're still planning to travel. 30%, 37% travel more in the next 12 months. Those who, especially in the top household income, and of course, Indonesia is a huge population, right? It's about 180 million people. Even if you're talking about a small subset of those who are in that top income, there's still plenty of people who are traveling out. And interesting that they're also looking for those kind of great experiences. Again, food, is it music? That seems to be more of a trend. So I guess the main message is that things are moving. There are definitely challenges, I think, for the Southeast Asian market. Visas, of course, similarly like Marco was saying for China, visas for some markets, for Europe, for Indonesia, for Philippines, for Thailand, remain challenges. But there's plenty of bright spots, and Europe is definitely a destination of choice for Southeast Asians to travel to.